I can do the Uva part, but I can't remember what the rest of it stands for, Ayla. Maybe you could just give a quick introduction to yourself, if that's okay.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Introduction. So yeah, Ayla Burns is easy. I'm a teacher educator senior lecturer at the Young University of Applied Sciences, and that is in Jyväskylä, central Finland, Keski-Suomi in Finnish. And I'm really, really happy to share our experiences with Iris Connect that we have quite a few years already. So nice to be here.
Thank you. Yes, so I'll do a quick introduction, then I'll hand over to Ayla to give a little bit of perspective from the chalk face, as it were. I promised myself I'd never use that phrase again. It's just crept in there. Chalk face, dear oh dear. Anyway, moving on. And I'm also joined by Graham Newell, who is the Director of Education at Iris Connect, and by Vesna Balagaska, who is our Director of Market Development. And we've all sort of actually, you may, if you're from an international context, you may already know Vesna because she's done a huge amount of work in terms of building our links on a sort of international basis. So what I'll do, just move the presentation on a little bit. Let's have a little talk about sort of the where Iris Connect are coming from and who we are as an organisation. Predominantly, we work in the space of CPD, of supporting teachers when they're already deployed in schools, and we've been doing that for over a decade, using our tools to support reflection, coaching, and sustainable inquiry in communities of practice. So we work in around, I think it's actually a little more than that now, around 2,700 organizations around the world in about 30 countries. So from the outset, we wanted to build a network of practice that was more than just one education system, because we feel that adds an awful lot of value to what we all do. There's around 80,000 teachers using the system, uploading about 5,000 videos per week onto the system. We're not driven by metrics in that way. It's what you can do with those videos that really matters. And now we're working not just in the CPD space, but also in early career framework, supporting newly qualified teachers, and also we work with the Chartered College of Teaching, supporting their C-Teach program, which is the chartered status program for teachers. And we're increasingly working in initial teacher education, which is really positive. And actually, from that point of view, we've got some fairly big announcements that we'll be making in January with regards to our work in this sector. I can't go into a huge amount of detail at this time, but it will be, as of January, over 5,000 trainee teachers coming on board to the Iris Connect program, amongst a couple of large providers in the UK. So fundamentally, what do we believe? Well, that's simple. Empowered, connected, and confident teachers are stronger teachers. And obviously, there's a huge weight of evidence to show that more effective teachers lead to better outcomes for learners. And we believe that that's not just a matter of initial teacher education. It's not just a matter of early career development. It's not just a matter of CPD or any of the higher end qualifications. It's a matter of joining those things together within a coherent ecosystem that's supporting teachers every step of their way. What were we based on? Where did we come from in terms of research? Well, I started at the University of Sussex after having been presented with this research, looking at the various components of effective professional development. And it was immediately obvious from this point of view why a lot of traditional mechanisms for professional development were fairly ineffective, because all we're doing is providing and presenting new information. And certainly that was true at the time. Our objective was to support modeling and demonstration of new skills, to support practice, and that should be with an S, practice and self-reflection, peer feedback, and developing an ongoing collaborative learning community. But the problem, and you can see obviously when you have all of those components together, you see a large degree of transfer to practice, a large amount of change that's sustainable within classrooms. The problem is that a large proportion of those things, from modeling to reflection to gaining feedback from others, being coaching and being coached, are all reliant within the education system on this notion of the lesson observation. And historically, that is something that has been not very scalable, very challenging for the education system to do. First of all, it's expensive. You have to physically move people around. You have to change timetables. Maybe have to pay for cover teaching or accommodation and travel and all that kind of stuff. It's subjective and disruptive. I think people can recognize the impact of having somebody at the back of the classroom with a clipboard on the impact on the lesson dynamic. And also inherently, that's one person's opinion, and sometimes it can be quite hard to find common ground in the dialogue process afterwards. And historically, teachers have always associated the process of being observed with a subject with a performance management summative assessment model. And so the most powerful thing that teachers could be engaged in is something they want to be engaged with the least, which we think is a tragedy from that point of view. So what we really wanted to do was to build a set of tools that made observation and feedback and modeling and all of the things that lead to effective development of teachers, something that was scalable at an individual level, something someone could engage in terms of reflecting or collaborating with their peers on a day-to-day basis, something that could happen within organizations and between organizations quickly and effectively. And fundamentally, at the heart of that, if we want to do more of it, we have to bring the unit cost down, just like every other network has done across the world. So, think about what music was like, and buying music before the advent of digital networks. If your local music shop didn't have the music you wanted, then you couldn't get it, and it was probably pretty expensive, so you could only have a small amount at a time. The advent of the network meant that there was a huge change to the supply and demand curve, and we could access the music we wanted on demand at a much, much lower price point. And we believe that's the kind of change that needs to happen in the education system. And the only way we can do that is by supporting a digital community of practice. And within the initial teacher education world, then there's some really solid interactions that we can support. It's a bit of a difficult screen to show you this one, apologies, but at the bottom of the screen, just to let you know, if anyone's having trouble seeing my screen share, if you move your mouse up just above the window where the screen share is showing, you'll get a little slider. Your mouse will turn into a slider, and you can drag that up towards the top of the screen, and you'll be able to see more. Sorry, I should have said that at the start. So just to sort of dig into this, obviously, we've got the ability to use video to support trainees to reflect on their practices and to share potentially with each other. You've also got the ability to add value to that relationship between the mentor and the trainee. And then obviously the tutor has an augmented relationship with both of the mentor and with their group of trainees that they're working with. But it doesn't have to stop there. We can use video to then reflect higher up within the program and to develop our skills and our understanding of the effectiveness of the program. And I'll show you how that can work as we move forward. So at its core, the way that our system works and the way that video observation systems as a whole work is that we have the ability to record practices wherever they're happening, whether that be online or in classrooms. So when they're happening in classrooms, we have a mobile app that can live on any mobile device. That is a secure way of teachers recording the practice that's taking place in the classroom and then connecting and uploading that video into our secure online learning community. Once it's there, we can use that video as the starting point of our professional conversation. We can analyze, we can communicate around that video, and we can we can develop our practice as a result, and that's fundamentally what the Iris Connect system's all about. Now, obviously, as we progress through the I will provide a more detailed overview of how that system works, and more importantly, how it overcomes some of these challenges of actually physically capturing practice in a legal way, in a way that's secure, and in a way that puts teachers at the heart of that decision-making process. But I don't want to just dive straight into a demonstration of that. I'd much rather hand over to Ayla, who will be in a position to talk about how they've used video and online collaboration as part of their work at YAM. So if you'll just bear with me 1 second, I will hand you over.
Thank you very much. Suddenly I have two cameras. I turned my camera off because I needed to have water, and now I have two.
Let me just finish my screen share. There we go.
Ignore the black one. Yes, okay. Thanks very much. Thank you. Actually the title here tells why, perhaps the reason why we chose Iris Connect is that we wanted to help our teacher educators to develop their expertise, and particularly through using this video recording device that Andy has showed. And sorry, I have to now say, can I have next one, please? So there's a few slides just to bring the context where we are, then the connection with the Iris Connect, and then examples or experiences from our students and teacher educators. That's the sort of structure, roughly. So how we use it with adult students. The average age is 30, 40 years old. They're very, very experienced adults who come to our education. They already have a degree. Usually they have to have master's degree. Most cases, master's degree plus work experience, 3 years work experience before they're able to apply to get into education. So they have so much experience already when they come, compared to your students. Some of the students might be 20 or 19, just out of the university. So that we have to, that's what we had to keep in mind when we did the selection, what we did. And the next slide, please, tells us how we work basically around Finland. Luckily, I noticed there's a country lady there, Sirkku. So you know how large our country is. We are somewhere in the middle, the smaller circle there. That's where Jyväskylä and our university is. And we operate everywhere except Lapland. We have a small group in the north there in Lapland, but mainly everywhere else. So that's the one, also the starting point when we looked at this. Okay, and the next one, please. So our connection with Iris Connect started perhaps about 6 years ago. We heard about the system in BET exhibition in London. I think it was 2013 or something. And soon after that, we started to talk and discuss more with the company. And the reasons there why we started the discussions related to sort of issues we were thinking about or looking solutions for. And one of the first one there is the pedagogical understanding and principles we have. We wanted to use this integrative pedagogy where sort of elements of expertise connect. You might be familiar with that or not, but 4 sort of areas of knowledge: some sort of theoretical knowledge, practical knowledge, metacognitive knowledge, and then the socio-cultural knowledge. And that's, we understand that expertise develops in any field, and particularly in sort of teaching profession. So we were looking for something that would support that. The second point there is that this practical training, practical element in our education is very, very important. I tell to my students that it's the most important part of the teacher education. Being there, out there, doing the practical training. And in our pedagogical principles, we believe that the feedback from us, from colleagues and peers, are important in this process of developing. And the last one, fourth one, there is this traveling issue, as you noticed. There's quite a way from here to go to observe, physically go and observe the lessons. We discussed how can we make it more efficient, how can we save our time, perhaps our money, perhaps the globe. So there was questions related to traveling. And then on the next slide, Andy, we found that actually with Iris Connect, there was a kind of holistic solution. We noticed, and Andy already showed at the beginning, that you have quite good evidence behind your research, evidence behind your product and your system. And the second one, which was really, really important, that Andy mentioned earlier, is this secure, safe environment. Because videos, and when we see people, we have to make sure that it's safe for our students and us to make the recordings and to view them. And naturally, the traveling time was already mentioned. The other one, what we found, you can see that a little later on the experiment of the comments, is the use of 2 cameras. That was something that we haven't in 6 years ago. So we really didn't have anything like that. And Iris Connect offered these 2 cameras possibility to record basically in a lecture room or workshop or anywhere. And and it still is, we find it very, very useful. And then for other issues with sort of using the system, we found it very, very easy. And other one which was really important for us was the support available from the company. And we did it. We got lots of support from you, and I'm thankful for that, because all of us came to you with all sort of level of English we have, and you always helped us. So that was really, really good and appreciated. Okay, there's now some experiences from our students and then from my colleagues. I discussed some of the colleagues who have used Iris Connect over these 5-6 years, and interestingly, these are the elements that came up with almost all of the groups. Students have been really pleased with this remote distance assessment and guidance. They thought they think it's fine and suitable for them. But you have to remember, we're talking about adults now. They also found that the system was kind of logical, easy for them to use, because in reality, we here educators, we didn't have too much time to show them how to use it. We did some demonstration, and even Vesna and colleagues came to Finland to show us, but not every group with every student, but they found it easy and simple to use. And how we did most of the cases is this discovery kit. I think Andy will tell us later what it is, but this sort of system in a back, and we send this pack with cameras and all the devices around Finland. And again, that was thought to be simple, easy to put together. Then inside the system, there is this element of review, sort of giving feedback on the videos, and our students thought that they gave a self-reflection and then peer review, and they also thought that was easy and kind of again self-evident. You didn't need to search for where and how to do it. And the same thing, students felt that it's good, they don't have to travel. And they also said that somehow they were better prepared for the discussion. We always had discussions as well, so prepared for this discussion session. So that's what our students said. And the next one, and then we have some experience from teacher educators. So some of my colleagues there, we found that some students had technical difficulties, like with every device, I think it happens. And we needed to, on this end, as a higher education institution, we kind of created a system how to support our sort of helpline or technical help, which we managed to do quite a lot. But then there were some cases that we needed help from Iris Connect. And as I said, we got it immediately. It was so easy to get help from there. And there were some issues that we couldn't we didn't know how to solve, some behind the system itself. The other one what we develop is some kind of process and a system how to circulate these discovery kits around Finland. I think currently we have 3 kits, and they travel quite nicely. It's only once when it got lost, but we found it eventually. So it was quite good. So we send the kit to students wherever they might be. They use it for a week, 2, and then they send it back to us. And obviously take the videos. They keep the videos safe. So that worked really, really well. And third one, which is perhaps even more important for me personally, is the pedagogical process there. We developed our own assessment practices. We started to think that, okay, what can we do in this end better to support this expertise development when we have the videos. So over these years, we have developed some kind of structured process, and it's very analytical process. That's what we use inside here. And the next one, I think we have a few more points. Over these years, we have realized that actually this system supports our chosen pedagogy, and it gave us like a mirror assessment for us and the students. And it goes back to this expertise development. When you, for example, see your practical work and then start to add theory into that, it becomes more, perhaps it is easier to see when it's in front of your eyes. That's what happened. Also, because students see themselves, of course, they start to understand their own self-awareness, their own strengths, weaknesses are quite apparent. And then also, as I said, these 3 or 4 elements of expertise seem to have developed. Our discussions, we kind of cover different levels when we discuss based on the videos, rather than just trying to remember what happened on this teaching practical session. And naturally, it referred to sort of reflection skills. They're much, much broader. And as I said, the levels of discussion go deeper. And I think, is that all? No, still? And hard as well? Yes, this is also what we have now seen, that because of the videos and the feedback and the reviews are in the system, within the system, it's very easy to go back to them after, let's say, 6 months or a few months when students actually graduate, and we have sort of final discussion, not only for the videos, but the whole teaching or the education process. It's so easy to go back to this system and say, okay, in 6 months' time, this happened. What do you think now? And that I think it's very, very easy for both of us, for myself and the students. These 2 areas, what I mentioned earlier, that was I think it's wonderful because I can start now, and the students themselves, they can analyze their own movements or whatever they do. At the same time, also the students' actions and how students react my instructions, for example, or my other movements. How, and we can see all that in the two cameras. So it's an excellent tool to have. And of course, because we didn't need to, currently, I'm the one of the colleagues who started to use Iris immediately. It has saved so much of my time traveling time, and perhaps a little bit less stress because I don't have to jump on the train or bus or somewhere. So definitely that's been very, very good saving. Thank you.
No, thank you. I think it's lovely to hear your feedback. I haven't actually heard it directly from you before, so that's wonderful. I think from my point of view, the things that are sort of most interesting about what you're saying there is about the sort of development of your own reflective model. I think that's you know, something that's absolutely crucial because that's at the heart of the process of making of developing that metacognition in both trainees and also I guess to some degree mentors or other professionals involved in the process, because it's only through the development of a kind of shared language and a shared understanding of what the practices are that we can move forward together. And I think that that's been one of the most interesting things to come out of some of the work that you've been doing. I thought I'd just very briefly put some flesh on the bones of what you're talking about, so people actually have some context in terms of what the videos look like, what they do, that kind of thing, and how the system operates. But that will literally be maybe a 5-minute thing, and then we've got a really long period of time for questions. If people in the meantime, while I'm sort of going through this presentation, would like to use the chat just to as an aid memoir, kind of, and highlighting whatever questions they might have, then we can use that as a way of managing the conversation afterwards. As I say, I really would like this session to be one where we're all involved in a discussion once we understand you know, the implications of video for ITE. So without further ado, I'll quickly share my screen and give you a quick overview, and then we can get into a conversation. So what you can see on the screen now, and do remember to pull this screen up if it looks too small for you. What you've got on the screen at this moment in time is the Iris Connect web platform. Now, the way that videos get up into here is, as I mentioned, from an app. So there's an app that lives on either an Android or an iOS device. Those devices can be paired together so that you can get two sources of video and up to 4 sources of audio within the process. Within ITE, quite often it's more of a kind of bring your own device and a single camera view and a Bluetooth microphone that's used purely so that trainees can just use their own devices or whatever's available in the school, with a pool of these higher end pieces of equipment available to go out and use as either as part of a more formal observation or as a method of capturing practice that we can use to illustrate particular pedagogical principles or ideas. So what happens is those videos are captured, there's a secure connection made up to the Iris Connect server, the video is transferred and then deleted from the local device. The whole process is encrypted, which means that we don't have situations where historically, when education programs have been using video, it's quite often sort of like, you know, saved on a thumb drive or left on a PC's hard drive, etc., which is, you know, makes my toes curl from a data security point of view. So once it's up here into the system, you'll see that when I log on as a trainee or as a mentor or as a tutor, it knows who I am and it knows what data I have access to and what videos are mine. And this is what's absolutely crucial, is that we wanted to put the teacher at the heart of the decision-making process by giving them control of their own videos. So within this screen, you can see that some of these videos have got a little share icon associated with them, and some of them do not. And that's because the ones that do not are not mine, they're ones that have been shared with me. So within this context, you can only share videos that are yours. And if someone shares a video with you, you can't share it on. So heart of the process, the teacher has the decision about whether to delete the video, whether to share it, whether to edit it, who to share it with, for how long. And all of these things are like crucial to getting buy-in to the use of the system. Let me just quickly show you what a single view video looks like. So you can see on the screen here that the video's away. Now, bear in mind that you're seeing this video through a screen share, so it's obviously a little bit sort of jittery, and you won't see it in its proper playback. But what you do see straight away is that this isn't just a video player. We've got on the right-hand side of the screen here a place where we can start building up a professional dialogue, and you can see that there are notes that have been made next to the video, and they're glowing blue and scrolling up to the top of the screen. That's because those notes carry with them a time link about when they were made. So if I want to make one of those, I just make a note and it's added to the timeline of the video at this precise moment. What that means is that if I want to navigate the video by the notes, then I can do that just by clicking on the note, and it will move the video back to where the note was made. Or equally, if I just play the video, the notes will scroll through when they're relevant. What are the uses of this? Obviously, modeling. If I'm looking to explain a particular pedagogical process, then maybe I, as an experienced teacher, can record my practice and then annotate not just what I was doing, but why I was doing it. When you share that with a trainee, they can see into your head while you're teaching, and it forms a much more effective bedrock for an observational process for them. Because quite often you can put an NQT or a trainee in a room and say, go and observe John, and they don't know why John's doing the things that John is doing, and this can overcome that challenge. Equally, of course, this is a fabulous place for feedback to happen, where because it's very explicitly about particular learning interactions, and it's inherently dialogic because what we can do is reply to each other's comments built up around a particular point. How is this process of replying happening? Well, it's because every video has this sharing capacity, and I can share within my professional trust network. And that's something that we can define between organizations so that I can share with my tutor, I can share with my mentor, I can potentially share with my peers, and it's all managed within appropriate legal framework. Within here too, we've also got the ability to go through and actually analyze the practice at a level of fidelity that maybe we haven't done before, because I can go through and actually count up, for example, particular frequencies of learning behaviors that we're seeing in the classroom. And what that does for me is then provide me a format that allows me, for example, to dig into who was talking and when. And for example, in this case, I can see there's a protracted period of teacher talk. If I click on the graph, it'll take me back to that point in the video, and I can see what was being talked about within that period of teacher talk. These form tools can be as complex or as simple as you like. You can make them standards-oriented rubrics, or you can just use them as simple reflection tools like these ones, which allow people to sort of dig in just below the surface of what's going on in their classroom. I won't go into a huge amount of more detail other than to say that the videos can be edited, because you might want to just share the first 5 minutes of the lesson securely online. And then also from a privacy point of view, we can cartoonize and anonymize this video so that you can't identify individuals within it. A final word on the collaborative elements. We don't just share videos, we can share videos and multimedia and our commentary and discussions within something called groups. And groups are as simple as, for example, one teacher introducing, in this case, their effective use of phonics in a primary context. And we can see a little video introduction from them, plus video overviews of their lessons where they're using the particular strategies that they've outlined. Or they can be a simple library tool where we can just all share videos between us within a group. Or potentially, if we want to go to another level of complexity, they can be environments where we can actually deliver a course to participants within our program. So in this case, we're talking about dialogic pedagogy. We can present the research, including talking heads from leading lights in the field of dialogic pedagogy. We can share videos that have been collected within the learning community with key talking points so that we can come together in real time and discuss and develop a shared understanding of the practice that's being shared. And then crucially, that then links back to the teacher's own practice. You can say, okay, well, now that we understand the theory and we've seen some examples and we've talked about it, what does this mean for me in my classroom? And there's some suggested reflection activities that will help them better get a better understanding of how this theory translates and is adapted for their own context. And all of that is underpinned by our ability to facilitate video conferencing on the platform as part of this learning experience as well. If you want to provide that coaching and mentoring feedback, if you want to engage in professional conversation in a real-time environment, then we can do that in an Iris Connect room as well, which is what we're in right now. So anyway, that's just a really quick sort of whistle-stop tour. I'm sorry if it sort of went on for a little bit, but I thought it'd be good to contextualize the kind of things that we're talking about moving forward. So let me stop sharing my screen and close this down. And let's have a little look and see if we've got any questions. Feel free to enable your mic and ask questions through the mic as well if you want to. Where are we at? Bit of love for the tagging comments part from Chris. Thank you. That's kind of cool. It does. One simple tool gives you multiple points of interaction, whether it's modeling, whether it's receiving feedback, developing conversations, but rooted in practice. And I think that's the key thing, because historically, if you give feedback in a after a lesson, it can come back to this sort of like, well, I think this happened, and the person say, well, I don't think so. At least with this, we've got the ability to actually watch it together and have a conversation about it, and maybe we can both adapt our opinion on something. Are there any other sort of questions or reflections? Okay, that's a really good question. I've got from KMT, working with over 100 primary and secondaries. How difficult is it to organise the data permissions? Who is? Where is KMT? Sorry, is that UK or is that somewhere else? I could look at my list. Let me have a little look. I'm not sure what that is. Okay, great. Thank you. So it's in a UK context. So let me just share my screen again quickly, because this is a really sort of important consideration. Now, let me come, oh, hello. Let's come down a bit on this screen and just talk about this sort of permission side of it a little bit as well. Should be able to see my screen now. There we go. Bear with me. Oh, sorry. Bear with me 1 second, sorry. Back in the game. So yeah, so this is obviously a really important consideration within the space of initial teacher education. Now, we've got actually quite a big track record of doing this now. I sort of mentioned the early career framework. And before that, we worked on a project called Accelerate, which is like a precursor to that within the education system, and on CTeach, all of which involved gaining the permission and buy-in of hundreds of schools for one or two participants to be involved in the program and to collect data and to share it under certain circumstances. And what we learned was that obviously we need to be working under the auspices of GDPR, and within that context, we've got to take the guidance of the Information Commissioner as well. And from that point of view, it doesn't make sense for the provider, for the ITT provider, to position themselves as a data owner in that context. You need to work organically with the schools under their own legal basis for data collection, and we can provide guidance and a framework to sit around that. But what you can see on the screen in front of you sort of outlines the kind of legal relationships that have worked with regards to getting a very high opt-in rate from schools who are participating in the program. Obviously, the data subjects, the parents, and the students. Well, sorry, the students, but obviously the parents acting in locum for them, and obviously need to provide the appropriate communications and privacy notices with them. But importantly, it's the school who's the data controller who are defining their legal basis for data collection. And the vast majority of schools who are working with us are doing so on the basis of public task, because there is a statutory duty to support initial teacher education in their classrooms. And that effectively means that they can then provide an opt-out for people who really genuinely can't participate, and learners who genuinely shouldn't be in that context, but predominantly are able to move forward with gaining the appropriate legal basis to do the data collection. Then you've got Iris Connect and the provider acting as data processors under the auspices and under the control of the data controller, i.e. the school. So the school says to us, yes, we'll sign a data processing agreement with you, where we agree what we'll do, how we'll manage the data, how long it'll be managed for, what purpose, etc. And the same with you, because obviously there will be scenarios where the trainee will be recording and sharing their video either to other participants in the program or to the tutors within the program. So all of that is something we've documented and got a really good solid basis for, and something that we will obviously be part of the process of engaging with anyone within the space of initial teacher education. Okay, so let me just dig in, see if there are any more questions that are coming through. Did that sort of help, KMT? Is there anything, any sort of follow-up or considerations that you have after what I said there? Let me know in the if the comments, and if you do, or just enable your mic, that's fine too. Hello.
Would it help if I read some of the questions that are coming out, Andy, so that we can discuss
That'd
them
be
together?
fine. I just I noticed that KMT might have, I don't know if you popped up on the video. Have you got a follow-up question or anything else like that? No, okay. Yeah, go for it, Bez. Yeah, let me know if there's a.
So we have a question from Kathy Gower. How does it work if the student is allocated a license funded by the university and capture footage of their teaching to share, but the school are in charge, or whether they can use it from a data perspective?
Yeah, so that is covered by this processing agreement that you would have in place with the school. So as the school comes into the program, they would agree to a data processing agreement with Iris Connect in order for us to manage their data in line with their expectations and requirements, but also an additional one with you, which outlines what data will be shared for how long and for what purpose. And obviously that is the process which would allow those students, for example, to share their videos with their tutor, to potentially donate elements of their footage to collaborative groups to outline particular instructional strategies or pedagogical approaches. So all of those things would then be managed by the data controller within the school, the DPO, and there is a special dashboard in Iris Connect which allows them to fulfill those obligations, to see what data is being shared with whom and for how long, and to revoke those privileges if they wanted to. It's one of those tools that we build and no one uses, because actually, once we've established the trust within the system and people can see that it's being used in an appropriate way, and then anxiety levels drop and we can just get on with the business of supporting trainee teachers. Do you want any more to read out there, Vez?
Yes, yeah, there's A question from Kate, a small question about microphones. We work
Yes.
with nurseries. Yes. How can we capture teaching within a room or outside with children moving around, particularly the sound? This is where the challenge has been so far. The interactions are so important and can get lost within a room of other sounds.
Absolutely, and of course here you have to blend simplicity and cost effectiveness of deployment against the fidelity that you want to achieve from an educational point of view, because I think everyone understands that it is in those relationships, in that dialogue, in that conversation between teachers and learners that might be happening a long way away from the camera, that the real heart of the professional development lies, right? Helping teachers to understand the relationship between teaching and learning. So, but at the other end of the spectrum, you know, how do you get our dual view quad audio system into out to every teacher? It might be, you know, prohibitive to do that. So what we'd need to do is need to sit down and discuss what interactions are really important and where, and define a blend of hardware technology to meet that need. So, for example, um, the majority of programs that we're working with are have predominantly running on a bring your own device approach, but maybe with a cheap Bluetooth microphone to support the at least hearing the teacher and the learner that they're speaking to. As we move up the scale, we can move to our dual view technology with 2 remote microphones out in the classroom. So the dual view technology addresses that issue of people moving around in a dynamic space, because you get a broad holistic view of the classroom. And it does work outside. Obviously, if we're talking about a whole school playing field, there might be areas that we're missing there and things might be going out of range, but we're getting a pretty good view. And there are 2 remote microphones as part of that situation, so you can put some on a table to capture group work, and the teacher has a lapel mic as well, and both of the iPads are both recording audio. So what that means is you get 2 video views on playback, and then you can select between your 4 microphones to actually go and hear the particular classroom interactions. Nothing's perfect. It will never get the full you know, um, telepresence experience of, you know, moving around the room seamlessly. But when you compare it against what you get in real time as a person, you know, you can only hear what's right next to you. You can't see what's going on the other end. You can't zone your audio in the same way. So actually, we're getting pretty close to being able to deliver a really augmented experience of observing practice.
Thank you, Andy.
So what's the sound quality like if they don't use mics but just their available device? I will touch on that. It depends on what you're capturing. It is obviously inherently a little limited. You will hear the children who are sitting nearest to the camera before you hear what's going on the other side of the classroom. However, if the purpose of your reflection is either to be looking at something that is quite teacher centric, and there are perfectly legitimate reasons to be doing that, of course, then positioning the camera near to the teacher and observe and recording that is appropriate. Or if you're focused on group work, again, you can effectively use the system in that context. Or if you want to look at the whole classroom but from a broad point of view, as in, you know, positioning in the room and overall dynamics without the need to dig into individual conversations, then you can do that with a bring your own device approach and nothing else. You want to go beyond that, you want to get into hearing the detail and the fidelity of the conversations, or hearing what's going on the other side of the room, then you at least need a Bluetooth microphone to augment that kit.
Thanks, Andy. We have another question around how video can be presented. Can you present live video on groups or only on rooms?
Okay, so you can embed I'm just trying to dig into the so this environment here, this video conferencing environment, can be deployed into a group under a button saying join now. So we could have the group and use it for delivering asynchronous learning content, so video examples from around our network, plus some theory, talking heads, that kind of stuff, and then click on a button at the designated time, and all the participants can be in this kind of environment. Additionally, the system does support live observation as well. It just isn't into the group interface, it's into the reflection interface. So the video that I showed you with the time linked notes scrolling past and with the data collection tools and all that sort of stuff, there's a system on Iris Connect to allow you to schedule a real-time observation so that those videos, that video in the video window is in real time. And if I click on a button, I can talk to the teacher in their ear and give them real-time feedback. And I can use the time link notes and I can use the data collection such that at the end of the session, we can both log back in again and see the data that I collected and the feedback I gave in real time. So that is a system. It's called Go, and it's a enormously effective tool. It's a matter of deploying it in the right kind of way to get the maximum benefit for your program.
Thank you, Andy. An additional question around how it can be used within the Google environment. We currently use Google Classroom and Google Meet to deliver our online training sessions. So groups could be used live in that way?
Uh, yes, you could screen share out a Google Meet and display all the content that was sitting in your Iris Connect group. Equally, you could link out to a Google Meet from your Iris Connect group. We provide rooms. This environment here is a free additional service. Don't feel like if you can't make use of this, you can't make use of Iris Connect. This is an add-on for those who are sort of struggling to find the right partner, and also something that is you don't have to context switch between one environment and the other. If you're working in Iris Connect, then here's a quick and easy video conferencing environment to support it as well. So there's lots of points of integration. Like for example, if you were using Google Classroom, then you can embed the links to the videos from Iris Connect back into your Google Classroom. So you could use the Google Classroom for the delivery of the content and then connect out to Iris Connect to review video, etc. So there's lots of points of crossover, and there's no particular conflict between the two.
Thank you, Andy. I can see that there's some more comments coming up. Right. So another question around Google. Does Iris do what Google Classroom does? It's
To
an
some
interesting one.
so good to some degree. So the groups function on Iris Connect is in essence a mini learning environment in the same way that Google Classroom is. Now, it has the advantages of the integration with your learning network and the integration of video from the Iris Connect platform in there. What it doesn't have is the just ridiculous list of third-party integrations that you get with Google Classroom. Obviously, Google sit in this sort of wonderful space where everyone has to sort of dance to their tune, and so there's lots of apps, third-party apps that you can use as part of Google Classroom, and that's not really the case with our groups. You can still track progress within groups. You can still see what people have engaged with. We can still present synchronous and asynchronous learning experiences. So there's a lot to it. All depends on what you're trying to achieve. And if ultimately Google Classroom delivers exactly what you need, then you don't need to use our groups in the same sort of way. You can still use the video from the platform to provide the observation, the feedback, the modeling, and the professional conversation.
Thank you, Andy. We have a question that is more around the practicality of allocating licenses to the students on IT programs. So if it is a one-year IT program, do the student teachers licenses automatically expire at the end of the year and then a new set are distributed the following year? And do you offer year-on-year agreements as the number of students teacher vary each year?
I've had so much fun with this. Yes, especially with programs that last for slightly more than a year, which is just fun to accommodate. We're enormously flexible, and we'll find workarounds for the various different programmatic approaches. The way that effectively the system works is that the licenses that you procure can either be procured on a 1 or 2 year basis. or 3-year basis, in fact, if you wanted to, and that obviously you get greater economies of scale for the 2 and then the 3, etc. And that just means you're making a contractual commitment to this year and next, or this year and the year after. So, if you've got the confidence to go for it, then a 2-year is probably a more effective way. And the way that it works is that our licenses are effectively seats at the table. So what that means is that if one participant leaves, you can suspend their account and generate a new one. And we can manage that through an administrative process. You can either do it through CSV upload, or we have something called LTI, which is a learning tool interoperability model that would allow, if you're using one of the mainstream VLEs, the synchronization of user accounts between the two. But all this can be dealt with in a consultative approach. So really what you need to do is just identify how many users you want right now and how long you want them for. And obviously, if the numbers go down, then we can reconcile that. Or if the numbers go up, we can reconcile that between years. So it's all, there's lots of flexibility built into the model, and we can tune it to the particular requirements of your program.
Thank you, Andy. Another question around the trainees. Yes. Do trainees, mentors each need a license as well?
Yeah, so this is a fabulous question, actually. So anyone who contributes video back onto the platform needs a full license. There is something called a basic user license, which allows you to access videos and videos to be shared with you, but you can't contribute your own in return. Now, our argument, our position on this is that we want to bring the cost of that license down to the point where it's a no-brainer, and you just get those mentors a license as well, because what a wonderful opportunity for them to model practice, or to demonstrate particular classroom skills back to the learners, or participate more meaningfully with the tutor, for example. However, we recognize that in certain circumstances that cost can be prohibitive, so we do have this basic user license that is much lower cost, and in that circumstance, to the point where you won't notice it, it's just a small fee for data management, and in that circumstance then they can still participate, if however in a slightly more limited way. A couple of programs that we're working with now are providing a short period of time for the mentor to be licensed for, to demonstrate what they can do with it, and to encourage the school to actually procure their own licensing to support the program. So there's lots of different ways of going about it, but fundamentally you don't need to spend the full license to have the mentor participate, but ideally you want them to have the full license so they can do everything, including recording and sharing.
Thank you.
Where are we time-wise, Vez?
We have a few more minutes if there are any more questions or any observations.
Obviously, if people want to be in touch subsequently, or outside, if a question comes to you after this, then probably the best thing to do would be just to be in touch with us directly. Vez, have we decided where the best way of doing that would be, what the best point of contact would be for people?
I'm not sure what was decided on that one. I think there will be a communication to all the participants after the event, and we will share that.
Of course. So good question for Kathy, from Kathy. Yes, essentially. There's a range of different, what we call our education services team can provide a range of different support. Firstly, there's actual on-platform support where we can build a kind of unique I don't know if you've ever been to a website where they have these pop-up overlays that explain how to use various tools on the system, and we can build those in a way that is aligned with your particular program, and we can have a little induction experience on there that explains everything about what you need to do. So that's one element. Another element is, yes, we can provide training both to the student teachers and to the mentors and to the program leads, and we can map what we provide onto the scale and objectives of your program. So it's something we've got quite a lot of experience in delivering now. KMT asks if the recording will be sent out. The recording will certainly be made available. That's no problem at all. Obviously, if there are any questions, then do feel free to follow up with us. Andy said it would be great if my colleagues who could not be here today can have access to this webinar. Yes, of course. Sorry, the same question. Yeah, the video will be made available to everybody who participated. That's no problem at all. Wow. Okay. Well, unless there are, oh, hang on. There's an incoming question. Bear with me. What type of cameras are used? Are these part of the discovery kit? So yes, so really our system is an app. It's a mobile app, and it can live on a Android tablet, an Android phone, an Apple iPhone. It can live on a iPod Touch. It can live on a iPad and the various incarnations of iPad, etc. So that's at one level, and then within our discovery kit, we've doubled down on just providing that equipment for you. So, within our Discovery Kit Pro, it's 2 iPads and 2 iPod Touches, inclusive of tripods, foam kind of mounts that keep them protected out in the classroom, and that's what gives you your 4 sources of audio and your 2 sources of video. We do also do something called our starter kit, which is literally just the tripod and a Bluetooth microphone and a bag, and then that can work with whatever device the trainee or the school has available. So it just gives you that sort of little bit of extra fidelity and simplicity in setting up, rather than just relying purely on the trainee's own device and all the various devices that they might come across. So from that point of view, we've engineered that to be a very, very low cost solution, so that theoretically you could roll that out to your whole program.
That links nicely to actually an earlier question that Kathy had asked in terms of the impracticality of sending a discovery kit to every single student when they have 300 students. So yes, they can use their own devices with an additional microphone for capturing audio. I think we kind of touched upon it earlier, but I hope that answers that question more thoroughly.
One of the strategies for that might be to focus on a BYOD, bring your own device approach, but have a pool of kit that you can send out to trainees at the sort of basic end of the spectrum, inclusive of an Android tablet and mic. The reason is that some schools have a no mobile phone policy, full stop. And you get that sort of pushback from school. So having in reserve the ability to meet those trainees' needs if they are in a school where they just either don't have the equipment to share or available, and then they can't bring their own device into the equation, then of course having something in reserve to be able to support that can be quite effective. Worth emphasizing that the videos are not stored on individuals' devices. Yes, so like this is the crucial thing. Actually, there's 2 good reasons for this. One, security, and the other's not filling the device full of video. So you install our app, the videos get recorded and sent to the right place and encrypted along the way, and then once we've got the confirmation that that video is uploaded, the local device deletes it. Our app deletes it from the local device, meaning that it doesn't take up storage and it's not a security risk. Oh, right. Okay. If there are any questions moving forwards, then Katie said that she's available. So that's Katie at irisconnect.com. So if you've got any questions that come up after this and you'd like a bit more support or more information, then just email Katie at irisconnect.com, and we'll be back in touch with you straight away. So Kathy says, sorry, I have a final question. Double check what what Bluetooth microphones are needed. We have within that what I described as our starter kit, done a lot of work around identifying the right Bluetooth microphones that like do it as well as you can at the right kind of price point to be scalable. So within that kit, there is our recommended Bluetooth microphones, but equally, any Bluetooth microphone will do the job. You just need to be able to pair it with the mobile device, and you will get an additional source of audio to varying degrees of effectiveness. So if you want to sort of go down that route of providing some low cost additional support, I do recommend our starter kit. But however, if you just want to use what you've got available, we can't guarantee the quality of that, but I can say with some confidence that you'll get a better result than if you were just using no mic at all. One more question. Are there examples of data processing agreements through Iris? Yes. So if you go to our website and bear with me, let's give you the right URL here, don't I? Under support and GDPR, there's a whole load of information on there. We'll shortly be updating that with a sort of templated GDPR data sharing agreement with an ITE provider. But I'm happy to sort of, if that's something you want access to before it's sort of published, so to speak, I can give you some access to that too. I'll just pop that URL with me.
In the shared notes, please.
Yes, under shared notes, there is that URL. Oh, you're doing it, aren't you, Bez? You've done it.
Yes.
Okay, I'll take that out again. Okay, brilliant. If there's any more questions, then feel free to be in touch. Yeah, thank you all for all your contributions to the. Have we lost Ayla? Has she gone?
No,
off the
Ella,
call?
Ella is
Ah,
still there.
well, I'd just like to say a massive thank you to her. It was a really good session, and I really enjoyed hearing more about what's been going on at YAMC. I think it's been one of our oldest partners, and we've always been really pleased to learn how they're sort of taking the program to sort of new levels, sort of pathfinding effectively. Yeah, really good. Any final words from anyone else, or shall we quit while the goings are good? Quit while we're ahead, maybe. Okay, lovely. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye now.